Hey gang, this is an introductory video that kind of summarizes a lot of what we've been talking about in class about the American Revolution. So I've got some stuff on the board that I've had up here pretty much all week, and I'm just going to go over that with you real quickly. Now, before we get to 1766, remember, in 1765, the Stamp Act was passed. That was passed to tax on printed materials going to the colonies. So all printed materials imported to the colonies from Great Britain were taxed. Papers, newspapers, books, Bibles, which is a book, cards, dice, all that stuff was taxed. And the British Parliament made one really big tax on these items. And so one of the problems we saw is that all of the colonists are paying for so much money that was lost from the French and Indian War just a few years before. Because remember, Great Britain's in a lot of debt. Now, because of the Stamp Act of 1765, a lot of things happened. In 1765, the Sons of Liberty formed. Where's Sam Adams? He's over there. But Sam Adams, who's going to lead... Oh, here he is. Sam Adams is going to found a group of people called the Sons of Liberty. And they're the ones who are going to protest the taxes. They're boycotting British goods. They're burning effigies, hanging effigies in trees, putting them on liberty poles and marching them around. They're also tarring and feathering tax collectors, which is, come here, kind of my favorite thing to do. It's my favorite Shabbat pastime. Now, tarring and feathering a tax collector meant that you boiled hot tar and then poured them on to a tax collector and then put feathers on them to embarrass them and also to send a message. We're not messing around with you guys, you tax collectors. If you guys are going to be like that, we're out to get you. And so there was a lot of that going on in the colonies. Now, tax collectors then stopped collecting taxes. They stopped going up to merchant shops, and Great Britain was losing a lot of money. Go to class. Now, because of all that boycotting, because of all the effigies, because of all the smuggling, what happens is in 1766, the Stamp Act is repealed. However, Great Britain is going to send troops to Boston to kind of make sure the colonists are doing what they need to do. Now, the colonists think this is great. We don't have to worry about paying any more stamp taxes. We don't have to worry about any of that stuff. We can just do what we want, and they celebrate. But not for long. Because in 1767, Charles Townshend, who's the leader of Parliament at the time, passes what are called the Townshend Acts, which are small taxes on everyday items like glass, lead, paint, tea, crown, flint, etc. With that, they're going to send more troops to Boston to police the colonists. And because of this too, the colonists feel like their rights are being violated. But what's really important is that the colonists are now going to be upset about these new things called writs of assistance, which were documents that allowed the British soldiers to just go through anything they wanted that they thought might have been smuggled goods. And so now the colonists feel like the British soldiers can just march into their homes and go through their boats and go through their stuff and declare stuff that's smuggled goods or items that didn't have a tax paid on them. And so the colonists were like, dude, you're invading our privacy. That's foreshadowing. Now, while this is going on, it just keeps going. 1767, 68, 69. Finally, in 1770, in March, we have the Boston Massacre, where 6 soldiers fired into the crowd of angry colonists who were throwing snowballs and rocks and oyster shells and clubs that were used to beat out rope. They were shot into a crowd on the early evening of March 5th, 1770, where five colonists were killed. And because of that, that was the first violent act of the Revolution. The first to die, Crispus Attucks, a runaway slave who actually earned his freedom, which is kind of ironic and kind of sends a weird message that the first person to die in the Revolution would be a runaway slave, when someone at the end of the Revolution really didn't have any rights. So this is our first violent act of the Revolution. Paul Revere and Sam Adams witnessed the event. Remember, the soldiers are being provoked by the British colonists, the boys throwing snowballs and rocks and oysters. And because of that, Paul Revere immediately bolts home and draws that famous image, of the colonists in the bloody massacre. Propaganda. That's not how it went down. The colonists provoked the massacre. And really, 5 people is not a massacre anyways. So it's kind of crazy to think that. So this sends a message to Great Britain that things are getting violent. And so Great Britain actually pulls troops from Boston to kind of settle things down. And they actually repealed the Townshend Acts on March 5th, 1770. But they didn't get the message. Remember, no Twitter. So Because of this, all the Townshend Acts are repealed except for a brand new tea act. In 1773, a new tea act is passed, which sells a British company's tea from the Dutch East India Company. It's so funny. It's so funny. So, it's so lame. Anyways, we have this Dutch tea being sold to the colonists by the Dutch East India Company, which is a British company, actually. They force the colonists to buy their tea, not tea that the colonists want, but only one company. So it's a monopoly. And the British colonists, even though they enjoy tea, they're pretty mad that they have to only drink from this one tea. I mean, if we live in Atlanta and it's the home of Coca-Cola. If all of a sudden everything was Coca-Cola in Atlanta and then tomorrow it was Pepsi, we'd be pretty upset too, especially because we wouldn't have any choices. And that's what the British colonists felt, that they didn't have any choices in the matter. So after the Tea Act was passed, which actually did lower the tax of tea, the colonists still said, no, we're boycotting the tea. And so millions of dollars was going to waste because it was spoiling at the harbors. Merchants weren't unloading the ships and the tea wasn't being sold, so it was going to waste. Kind of like this tea. This tea's like 5 years old. It's disgusting. Anyways, in December of 1773, Sam Adams and about 50 to 60 members of the Sons of Liberty said, that tea needs to be unloaded by the 17th. We got it. They went down to Boston Harbor, where they stormed the Dartmouth, the Beaver, and the Eleanor. 3 ships carrying 342 crates of tea. They went to the harbor, they cracked open the tea chest, and they dumped all the tea into the harbor. 90,000 pounds of tea, almost $1 million in value today. And they dumped it into the harbor as a form of protest against the Crown's policies on tea. You are not going to force a monopoly on us. You are not going to make us buy this tea. We are not going to pay your silly taxes. And the colonists think, yes, we've done it. Another message to the Parliament to say, no more taxes. Well, after they threw these 342 crates of tea into the harbor, known as the Boston Tea Party, yes, it shows that it's a revolutionary event because it protested the taxes, and it did lead to more people boycotting more goods. It's unfortunately going to lead to the Intolerable Acts, those four acts that are going to punish the city of Boston. The first one, no ships could enter or leave Boston Harbor until all the tea was paid for. Again, these are the coercive or intolerable acts of 1774 after Great Britain heard about this massive protest of the Boston Tea Party. British Parliament heard in the spring of 1774 that the Tea Party happened and went, that's not okay. That's not okay at all. No, we're going to get you, colonists. We're going to get you. So they passed a series of 4 laws. Technically it was 5, but nobody cares about the 5th one. 4 laws. Again, Boston Harbor is closed until all the tea is paid for. No ships can go in or out of Boston until you Bostonians clean and pay for all that tea. The second one was an Administration of Justice Act. No more town meetings, no more government meetings, no more meetings at all, because every time there's a meeting, Boston Massacre, Boston Tea Party, so no more town and government meetings are allowed in the colonies. So it kind of takes away their colonial rights as Englishmen. The third thing, another quartering act. So now 5,000 soldiers are going to be sent to Boston, and those soldiers need a place to live. Where are they going to live? In the homes of the British colonists in Boston. So we have another quartering act that's going to go into effect. And they're going to be really mean. They're going to be looking through everything. And then finally, the last one was if you were committed or tried of a crime, if you committed a crime or accused of a crime against a British official, or if a British official was accused of committing a crime in Boston, that court case would now be held in England rather than in Boston. So remember, after the Boston Massacre, remember John Adams defended the soldiers and they won because the soldiers in the Boston Massacre fired in self-defense? Because it's kind of insane because they actually won, like the Redcoats won. The British won. Adams defended that they fired in self-defense and it wasn't a massacre. Well, now, not the case. If you were a British colonist accused of a crime by a soldier or a soldier who was accused of a crime, you would now be tried in England for a fair trial, which isn't fair at all. Because in England, they're going to be like, nah, he didn't do it. He's a British soldier. He's innocent. Those Intolerable Acts of 1774 are what lead to the First Continental Congress, where they would meet in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, from 1774 of September to 1774 of October, where they would discuss, what do we do now about these Intolerable Acts? Are the things that are happening here in Massachusetts going on in North Carolina, or are they going on in Georgia and New Hampshire? Or what about Virginia and Rhode Island? So 12 of the 13 colonies showed up for a First Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia. Georgia didn't show up because, to be realistic, what was Georgia doing? They were like 20 years old at the time. So this First Continental Congress meeting meets to determine, where do we go now? How do we send messages to the king to say, hey, back off, go easy on us, and we're not happy with the taxes, and we need to find a better way of going about this. The Congress disbands, and things are going to get ugly in the spring of 1775. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be good.